This video is going to be based on comments made by one of the followers of this channel. Apparently somebody who lived in the Netherlands. He purchased a Brompton G-Line electric. I don't even think that as of June of 2025 you can even get that bike in the US. If you have that bike and you are in America, please let us know. Let us know what you think about this. The buyer from the Netherlands is saying that if he knew about all the problems that come with the bike, he would not have purchased it. I have mentioned this before. I have done several videos on why I don't think the G-Line is a good purchase. I think G stands for garbage, which is pretty accurate. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the complaints and how you can fix them, especially if you already own a G-Line, especially a G-Line electric. If you have not purchased one but are thinking about it, I am also going to review the one alternative that I think should be considered. This is the G-Line design. I have already explained why I don't like it. They haven't really thought this design through. There is a steel frame, but it looks like you got rear-ended by a truck or something, and it got this formerly elegant curve is now anything but elegant. It looks warped, and the same thing is true of the steering column. And then there is this weird straight line front fork, actually made of aluminum instead of steel, like the rest of the bike. None of this is in harmony with the original design language. It looks bizarre. And there are many other problems. So we're going to start with the luggage. You can carry an awful lot in the front, just as with the original steel frame. The Andrew Ritchie design, which I think is a great design, that's the one I own. But on the rear, I had a luggage rack installed. Unless you install a bag that's really, really narrow, you are going to kick it because it's too close to your feet. As you're pedaling, as you go around like this, you're going to be kicking most bags that would be available on the market. And this is a great illustration from this viewer. This is exactly what your foot would look like. This is your shoes, and your feet would be somewhere here. And this is the bag. So if the bag is wider than 3 inches, you're going to be kicking it. What can you do with that? What smart people have done is keep the luggage carrier, but put on a tall backpack that can be connected or secured onto the seat, as well as the outer edge of the luggage carrier. And then it's going to be, the bottom of it is going to be moved away from you. So you're not going to be kicking it, and you can load an awful lot. Do you need to load this much on a Brompton? If you are going traveling for a week or so, I would rather just get a trailer, to be honest. That's better for the ride as well. But if you want to pack everything on the bike, then this is one option you can do. This viewer also complains about lighting. The lighting apparently on the electric G-Line bike is connected to the main battery. I have such an option on my setup, which is described in my book. I don't like to do it because I like a separate battery to run the lights. I don't want to consume any extra energy from the main battery. And I also am thinking about, what if I run out of electricity? Would I also go dark? So I prefer to have a separate light arrangement. I'm going to describe to you how that is. I'm actually very happy with the light on this G Electric coming off of the main battery. This is very bright. This is good enough for off-roads in the middle of nowhere. So I have no complaints about that. Apparently this rider removed both the front and the rear light. The rear light should never be attached to any kind of remote battery, because that's just going to add to the wiring, which is already complicated enough. I also don't like long wires to run from the front light, but especially the rear one would have a lot of wiring. What I do and what I recommend is to buy a separate power bank with possibly several 2 to 4 separate USB outlets. So you can run several USB front lights. Typically the USB lights are not that powerful, but you can put several of them onto the bank. And this is a very cheap, very basic power bank. You can buy so much more power for just a little bit more money. This one, 10,000 milliampere, is actually safe enough for most airlines. Anything larger, and some might confiscate it from you. I have had a power bank confiscated, a much bigger one than this one. And it's so cheap and so light, you can even get 2 power banks, so you'd never run out. And you have several front lights, so you have the security that if one of them breaks down, you still have the other one. And then you can buy these lights. They're not very powerful, but they have a decent amount of power. What I would do is to get 2 pairs. That way you can run 2 of these front lights connected to that power bank for not a lot of money and a lot of security and stability. The power bank I typically insert into my handlebar pouch, so the wiring is very short. And for the rear, I typically just run 1 rear tail light, but I typically carry 2 of them. So even though they last forever, should I run out, I just remove the one that ran out and I install the other one. It takes a minute and it never really happens, but just in case you're traveling, you're riding out all day long, this is certainly a secure option. And then there have been complaints about everything, the bar end and the bells. The bells are easily replaced. If you don't like the original rubber band attached bell, that's the one I have. I understand it's not very stable. You keep on pushing it around with your thumb. If you want something very secure, then you can upgrade it for a few dollars. I don't really blame Brompton for that. They do not sell you on their flat bar with a fancy bar end like this one. This is exactly the GP5 Ergon that I have, and I'm putting a link below to all of these things so you can check them out yourself. It's not a cheap bar end, it's about $70, but it's totally worth it. You can have a sporty, comfortable grip. You can have a power grip that's vertical on the end. And if you want to straighten up a little bit, if your back is beginning to hurt or get tired, then you can use the upper grip, which is not as comfortable as the one in the bottom, but it's still a bit more ergonomic than just being a cylindrical tube. I definitely swear by this bar end if you have a straight bar. Here is another image on the original Brompton G line. As far as the mirror they give you, I think they are adequate. They are sort of like what's available commercially anyway, so I have no complaints there. Here is the GP5 bar, and don't worry about the negative comments. Some idiots come around and add a 1-star review. I totally stand behind this bar, and I've had it for 5 or 6 years. It's a marvelous product to have. It's going to last for decades, if not until the end of my life. It's actually German made and it's partly cork, so it's half green. I wish the whole thing was made out of cork, but I guess that's not happening yet. Now you may choose to just get rid of this whole flat bar thing and install something more comfortable. To be honest, the flat bar is for racing and high speeds. I installed it on mine because I was challenged by road bikes and I could not pass them with a riser bar like this one. Aerodynamics matter so much at higher speeds. But then if you are just using this for especially off-road and scenic rides on dirty roads and so on, or if this is just for comfortable commuting on rough city roads or cobblestones and all of that, then you might as well just go with a riser bar. You can easily replace what the Brompton has. Just make sure you get the measurement. Make sure you have exactly the 1 inch or whatever Brompton is using. And if you have a riser handlebar, and there are much more aggressive risers than this, if you have something like this installed, then you don't need the high bar end. What you can use then is a flat bar end, which is less fancy, less expensive. It's very comfortable. You no longer need the multiple hand positions because your hands are held up pretty high, so they are pretty comfortable. There were also complaints about the seat post. If you refer to my book, you know what I think about seat post. I cannot live without my suspension seat post. It's absolutely a game changer. There's no turning back, especially on the Brompton, which hardly has any suspension at all. And by the way, just as I mentioned in the book, the suspension itself can be improved even on the Brompton. If you don't like the seat post, it's not a big deal. Brompton did something cheap. Obviously, you can get better. You can even get a titanium post for something like 120, or even for 150, you might be able to get an H&H. Should you get the electric G line? Absolutely not. Unfortunately, you don't have many options if you want a fully ready prefab electric bike that has wide off-road tires potentially. In an optimal world, I would recommend that you get a great moultonbike that can take a 2-inch or 2.5-inch wide tire and follow my advice in the book and build it out as an electric. However, if this is not doable, then I do have a recommendation because the G-Line does have competition. And that recommendation would be to get the Bike Friday folding e-bike. Consider the advantages. Number one, you have a Bosch center drive. Even if this is not more powerful than what the Brompton G-Line gives you, it is a center drive. It is driving the crank, not the wheel. The torque is going to be much, much higher than would be with the motor being inside the wheel hub. I would say a 250 watt at the crank is going to feel more like a 350, 400 or even more. In fact, this is such a powerful torquey arrangement. People can go up steps with these bikes, and you can download videos to see this in action. In fact, I just saw this last week when I got lost off-road, and somebody was coming not with a Bike Friday, but with another full-sized bike. It had the center drive, and he had no problem tackling the big rocks. It is highly recommended. Second, this is a beautiful frame, and you have practically unlimited color options. A lot of various bag options as well. But it looks so much better than the Brompton. I don't see why anybody would buy this thing. It is far more limited. You have this teeny tiny motor installed in the rear and hardly any gears. The gears are really limited, and this is also something this rider has been complaining about. You have a much, much wider gear range, even though this is an external cassette. But look at how big the biggest sprocket is. You can really climb. And this was made so you could climb. The fold is not as great as the Brompton, I admit that. You have to give some space for the performance. So you have to figure out what you want to do. If this is going in the back of your car, I don't think that's going to be a problem. If this is going under your desk at work, you have to take measurements and figure out if you can store something as big as this one. It's definitely going to be bigger than the space that the Brompton takes up. Now keep in mind, roll-off was mentioned by this rider. Roll-off is an option available for the Bike Friday. Plus, belt drive is also an available option. As far as tires are concerned, it's running the same Billy Bunkers, more than 2-inch wide tires as the Brompton. It's the same tire. A more compact fold for the Brompton, but they can run the same tires, and it could probably even run 2.5 inches. It is just a nicer bike. A much better engineered bike. Both of them are handmade. The Brompton is only partially steel. The Bike Friday is fully steel. And it has a very lean battery as well. I'm not crazy about this rear luggage rack. I would prefer to just pack everything under the seat, to be honest. Very nice looking bicycle. Now, Bike Friday claims that this is a travel-friendly bike. I'm not sure if it would be accepted by every airline, but it certainly looks very lean. And this is something you can buy straight online. Let's look at the configuration. I choose flat bar, choose your gears. Consider you can get a roll-off, but that's going to be really expensive, so I'm not even going to compare that. Just stick with 9-speed. That's already better than the Brompton is going to give you. The Brompton only gives you 4 gears right now, external gears, and they are not very widely spaced. You have a huge amount of color choices plus a custom color. You're not getting that from the Brompton. You can choose even the color of the wiring. Okay, so I'm going to choose red just to be fancy. Why not? You can have various battery types, and a Brompton had tube mine, so you can load Brompton bags. What a great option. Travel bags, all kinds of fenders and bags, just like with the Brompton, but you have to pay extra. A frame upgrade, build me the lightest frame. So for extra money, maybe they are going to change some of the steel components. I don't know what this is. So we ended up with a little over 5,200. Is it more than the Brompton G-Line? I think the Brompton G-Line electric is going to be a little over 4,000, so it's probably going to be $1,000 less. It is less money, but the Bike Friday is far superior in terms of engineering, appearance, and also components because it has a Bosch center drive. So these are your options. Ideally, if I wanted a bike like this, I would just get the Moulton and configure it myself as an electric bike, just the way I describe in the book, just the way I've built my own bike. And in fact, I'm going to be adding some upgrades. I'm constantly upgrading the Brompton Interceptor, and we shall see how far I go. I might go for an upgrade in the rear so I can put in a bigger tire. Not really in the front. I think that just a lot of extra money spent on nothing. Okay, this is it. If anybody has the electric G-Line, please let us know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.
I'll be back.